Little video showing you in a bit of detail the first quarter of our roughly 2 hectare grazing area that we use for holistically planned grazing with 12 sheep, of which 6 are lambs, but they're starting to eat properly now. So 1/4 of 2 hectares is about a half hectare, and they have been working on this half hectare for about 40 days. 40 days, 12 animals on half a hectare. Well, maybe what you see here is roughly what you would expect it to look like. Not much high grass or other vegetation remaining, quite a bit of manure on the ground. You wouldn't expect it to be much better. But this is the paddock that they had the last. So this half hectare has been divided into 8 bits, 8 paddocks, and they stayed on average 5 days in each paddock, sometimes 6, sometimes 4, and it was done in strip grazing because the paddocks were a bit too big for the 12 animals to handle within 3 days, and after 3 days you get recovery kicks in of the plants, and if they would regraze within the 3 days, then those plants that are eaten would be overgrazed. So I gave the paddocks to them in 3 bits. So this one here, I don't know if you can see that properly, that is roughly the triangle that the paddock is. So I gave them 1/3 first, and then when they were done with that, added the next third. When they were done with that, added the last third in the back over there. And that means that whenever I add an area, when they've fully grazed the first one, then clearly they are not interested in focusing on feeding in that first third anymore, because the second third is way better. So they will spend all their time eating over there. Likewise with adding the third third, they will forget about the 2 first thirds and just be in the last one, eating there all the time, and only when they're done with that was it time to move on to a new paddock. Anyway, this is the last one. This you're looking at is 10 days of recovery already, because they're in quarter 2 now. We're looking at quarter 1. So 10 days of recovery. You see a little bit of light green here, which is the dandelions. The rest is not really recovering, obviously, visibly yet. Now though, we go back another roughly 10 days. That's this one. I see a bit more green. Not really obvious. But now we go to another 5 days back in time. There's a big difference. There is obviously a lot more fresh, new green coming up there. You can even see the first flowers popping up. Not many yet. That starts to happen in the next one. Definitely clearly higher green and more flowers. And the next paddock, yet more flowers, higher green, and here the really big difference starts showing up. Lots and lots of insect activity. I see lots of butterflies and bumblebees. Another huge step, just 5 days more of recovery. And then we get to the last paddock, the one that they started with, sort of beginning of June. That really almost looks as good as quarter 4 behind this white fence, which has not been grazed this spring yet. So that's half a hectare of fairly intensively grazed land. But more than half of it is full of flowers and insects. Just let me do that very quickly again, just so you can see the difference, the steps. So I can definitely see and hear most insects in the flower-rich area. But I know that in this last paddock there is a lot of insect activity as well. And if we're very lucky, you can see the grasshoppers perhaps and the crickets. If we're very lucky, we can see evidence of some of them here. Dung beetles? No, of course not in this one. Well, a little bit. There are hollows, but not crazy much. The dung beetles may actually have done most of their work already on the larger bits of manure. So here, where it looks quite poor, there is a lot of activity going of insects and worms and what have you to put the manure and the dead and dying trampled grass and other vegetation into the soil again to feed the soil life, which then will feed the recovery of the plants.